Life will knock you down. Sports will break your rhythm. Wrestling, football, any arena, it does not matter. It's going to happen. And what defines the mentally tough is not avoiding the adversity, but rather how they double down after it. It's like if you're tackled, you got second and 10, but you don't quit the drive. You commit to the next play. And mental toughness is built in the bounce back. And today, we are breaking down exactly how to double down on that play, on that next play with clarity and composure using this 4C framework of a challenge, commitment, control, and confidence. Let's get into this. I promise you will find it just as exciting as I do. Hey y'all, welcome to the Mental Performance Playbook, where we are breaking down elite mental strategies and delivering them in actionable exercises that you can apply immediately. My name is Gabe Rummel, mental performance coach, founder of The Athlete's Health, and creator of its Phronoic Gym, where we are training your mind just like you train your body. Now, each week we focus on a mental performance theme that helps the athlete or a coach or a parent gain some practical, some actionable exercises that can help with the confidence, with the focus, with the resilience that you then can apply immediately. This week's theme is doubling down on mental toughness. That's exactly what we're going to do with that whole mental toughness talk. We're going to look at how to double down, play that hand right, and attack the next play. And this is specifically built around this 4C's framework, like I said before, of challenge, commitment, control, and confidence. Shout out to Sports by Psychology by John Perry, because this is actually where I came across this, and I thought it just fit perfectly into our C's of performance. That's right. If you're not watching this, I'm pulling out an older document of the Athlete's Health, how we got a lot of different C's that make us up, our pillars. And so I saw that and I just thought, this is perfect for us here. And that is exactly what we are about to be doing. We're doubling down on our own frameworks, on our own coaching for you to then get out there, get in the hard times, and get moving forward through them. We got 4 pieces. Let's get going and give you some easy ways to remember them and more easy ways to apply them. Number 1 is challenge. And what I want us to think about here is sniffing it before you step in it. That's right. You know what I'm talking about. Okay. Because just because you smell that stank does not mean you know where the pile is. And identifying the challenge, what actually sets you back, where you need the mental toughness, is step 1. And this is that crap check, right? The other day, one of the animals in the house were not happy. And if someone pees in the house, you hear about it. And that is what happening. Okay. You could smell the odor. Okay. You could smell some pee. It wasn't crap, but you could smell some pee. And we had the crap check going full circle, pulling up all the rugs, all the carpet, figuring out where this specific smell was. And we had to be mentally tough through it. We had to push through that. And it's no different than the crap that you face on the court or on the field. Okay. You're smelling the stink, right? That odor is just all around. It's a tough game. But what are you actually doing to find it, right? We're smelling the stink around the house. We don't stop there. We don't go away. We don't hide. We go search it out. Otherwise, that stink is just going to stay there. So we've got a couple of different ways that we can do this. But it starts if we're writing down the current obstacle that's throwing us off. If we write it down, then we can actually see it and it's not just floating around in our head, or like that stank that's floating around in the sky with the smell. If we can circle, because maybe we're writing down maybe 10 things that happened in the game that weren't that well, or at practice, or ever we're facing the challenge that we're trying to be mentally tough in. Well, if we can write that down, and we can do this during practice too, but it's nice if we can then go do this outside of it, and then we can fully analyze. Or maybe your team has a film session, and in this time is when you are analyzing it, because then we can circle maybe one or two of those pieces that we wrote down, those sources of the stink. So then we can identify, okay, this is the challenge. This is clearly showing us it. It's removing any fog. It's, you got the stank waves going. It's okay. This is actually where it is. So this was step one of the challenge piece of it. Okay. Making sure that we are sniffing it before we step in it, so we don't step in it again in case we already did. That takes us to number 2 of commitment. And I have a cliff and rope analogy here. I want you to think like you are dangling off of a cliff. Without the clarity, you're gripping the rock or the rope that's hanging down from the rock. Think of your classic movie scene in panic, scared death. If you let go, you are falling down and poof, kaboosh. With clarity, though, you've got a rope and you've got a solid rope, one with the little knots in it. And you also know what is at the top. And you know the cost of falling. Without clarity, you're just kind of dangling on the rock. You don't know how high up you are, how far down you are. You don't know what's up top, what's down. It's scary. Commitment is holding on to this rope and knowing where you're trying to go and what's on the other side. This is the rope holding drill here, because sometimes it seems like it's easy to let go of that rope and just let it all go, right? Be done with it. Fall in this movie sense, right? But if we can write down the best possible outcome, if we know what's on the top of where that mount is going, or where that rope is going on the top of the mountain there that we're dangling from, we can stay committed even during those worst possible times. And we can stay committed because we know the worst possible outcome. If we do in fact let go, if we do in fact give up, we can use this rope as clarity to double down. Otherwise, we may let go of this rope, and then later on we may be thinking, oh, what if I just hung on? What if I just hung on for one more second, one more time, one more little piece of it? What if I just hung on to that rope when I was on the cliff, when I just had to commit to it? So I want us to make sure that we know that commitment is not a blind thing. It's not just an obscure, just a random word that people throw around. Okay. It is gripping that rope. When we know what's above and what's below, and we have a choice to let go or grip a little bit more and use those muscles to just a little bit more of the extent of the duration of the maximum allowance that they have to bring us one step closer. Commitment is just that action to stay on the rope. And that is what I want us to make sure that we can do. If we're already writing stuff down, write down the best possible outcome. Write down what the worst possible outcome is, especially if you let go. And then use this with the clarity piece, with identifying the challenge, to double down on the action that we want to take as we go through this. Number 3 is control. Steer the wheel. Do not fight the storm. This is what I mean by this. Imagine this. You picture this. I know I've done this a couple times. Passenger seat and driving, going through a thunderstorm. Oh my gosh, the rain is crazy. The wind is crazier. Thunder, lightning. I don't know what I'm doing. I can't even see anything. I'm driving 30 miles an hour on the highway going, that should be 65. It's insane, right? We cannot control the rain, the weather at all, but we can control our grip on the steering wheel. We can control the adjustment of the speed, and we can stay in our lane if we do those pieces and stay on the road. This is why this is our control compass, and why I want to make sure that we are steering the wheel instead of trying to fight the storm. Ultimately, it is the same thing when we're steering the wheel. Even if we're going with the storm, we're still fighting it so it doesn't throw us off the road. But it's kind of like a boxer saying, go with the punches, move with it, move with the game instead of fighting it. Because if you're trying to swim up current, you got a lot more struggle coming your way instead of floating down with the current. That is why it's the control compass. If we were trying to actionably do something here, we could draw 2 columns of what I control, what I can't. We can make it 2 circles. We can just think about it. We can talk through it. That's what we do a lot of times with our athletes one-on-one. But double down after we fill in what you can and what you can't control. Double down on the pieces you can control. This is something that I'm doing right now, trying to wake up early every day. I'm doubling down on the pieces that I can control to find happiness, to find that pursuit in the life, is doubling down on the pieces of getting up early, because that seems to be a problem area. And I'm doubling down on it, right? The composure comes from control. If you don't have control over anything, you're going to be a little freaked out. You're going to have a little anxiety going. But if we can focus on the wheel and not the weather, all of a sudden we gain that control. But it starts because we found the challenge and we committed to it. We committed going through the storm. The storm was the challenge, and now we're gaining the control through it. And that is ultimately where we get to step number 4 of the confidence and doubling down, using it as a do-over. Because it's kind of like throwing an interception, right? You're not going to bench yourself, and you're not going to get benched if you're the QB. You line back up, you get back in the game, and you trust your training. If you have a turnover in whatever the game is, chances are, especially if it's your first one, if it's after like 3, 5, something, you might get pulled out of the game. Okay, let's be realistic here. But if it's the first one and you're the starter, trust the training, you double down. And that is the confidence in the next rep. We have to pair doubling down as doubling the confidence, not being shameful of the last one. Otherwise, that's how we're going to play. How many times have we made a turnover and that's what we're thinking about? And then in the game, we're thinking about the turnover and then we make another one. I'll raise my hand. That used to be me all the time. That was probably one of my biggest problems, is I make a mistake and now I'm just thinking about that mistake, and now, can't get out of it. And then I make another mistake and then I get pulled out of the game. I'm like, man, what do we got going on here? And that's exactly it. That's why I want to make sure that we know that this is the do-over drive. Seriously, think of it like in football. Interception, you make the mistake, come back, do-over drive. You are getting another chance. You're not benched. You're out there again after the mistake. If we need to, just perform a small action, something that you can control, a breath, a reset, a word, a tap. It's whatever the reset rep is that we've covered extensively in past podcasts and that we keep bringing back, keep reminding, because we need it. I know for me, when the other day, it was thinking about my wrist flick and pairing that with all right, get the next one. I was also saying maybe a couple other words there when I was getting doubled down. I was getting beat by double a score. It was pretty tough, but that was the reset for me, right? It's to prove that you can recover fast. And that is what I want us to make sure that we can do. That confidence is earned in the do-overs, when we can prove to ourselves that we can go back out there and double down to turn that setback into a setup, into winning the game, ideally, right? But we can't do it if we don't identify the challenge, start to commit to breaking down that challenge or beating it or crushing it, whatever it is that we're trying to do with it, to find our control and then finally be confident in it. So I want to make sure as we wrap this up that we understand that the toughness, the mental toughness, is not about just taking the first hit, but it's about taking that second hit and then still moving forward, about having the mistake that will happen at some point, the strikeout at some point, and moving forward, right? We want to start with the challenge when we're facing with this. Sniff it before you step in it. You smelling that stuff? It's somewhere, but it's kind of random, right? You gotta go sniff it out. You gotta find it, and then we commit, right? We gotta grab that rope instead of just the rock. Grab that rope and start climbing up it. And then we get the control because we're doing that. For instance, we were talking about steering in the storm, not fighting in the storm, right? If we're climbing that rope and a strong gust of wind comes, maybe we're not going to take a second to try and climb. We're going to hide away from a rock so it doesn't blow us away. And then lastly, the confidence, baby. That's when the confidence comes, when we are doubling down and treating every failure as a fail forward is one thing they often say, but just as a do-over, right? And we had that clarity and composure as the guidelines, because through the whole time we have to use our C's of a clear vision of what we're trying to do. We have to find that root, that faith, and then we have to stay composed as we are going through all 4 of those processes, which ended in ultimately our third pillar of the confidence. So then we know that we are not just surviving the setbacks, but we're really striving through them. If you like this, check out the rest of our stuff at theathleteshealth.com. Got our mental for Noah gym launched. Check us out. Get our free mental training call. Seriously, if you're trying to learn more about this, if you want to get one exercise specifically for you, fill out the link below or on the website. Book that free call. We'll get you doing our mental strengths finder. See where your specific strengths are. See what some things that we could work on, but ultimately send you out of that training call with a mental exercise for yourself and to see if it's something that we want to keep working on. But seriously, take us up on this. Otherwise, keep listening to the Mental Performance Playbook here on Spotify, Apple, some on YouTube, and check out the free exercises that we post online almost daily. But my name's Gabe Rummel, and I will catch you next week. Peace.